Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Ripple Effect with Alexa DePaolo. I'm Alexa, and here we sit down with entrepreneurs, leaders, and professionals to talk about business growth, personal development, and real life balance. No fluff, just honest conversations. Now, let's get going. Today, I am joined by Valerie, a top producing real estate leader based in Bozeman, Montana. She started her career as an assistant in 2018 and worked her way up to becoming a partner on the highest producing team in her MLS. Now ranked top 10 in the state, she's a three-time Christie's International Real Estate Master Circle member and leads a team of 9. Beyond her success in business, Valerie's story includes motherhood, building a life with her husband as he launched his own company, and she advocates for postpartum depression and finding her way back even stronger. She's now launching a podcast focused on women, entrepreneurship, motherhood, and real honest conversations. Welcome, Valerie. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having
You're
me.
absolutely. Congratulations on all your success. It's been so cool to watch you grow just in the last year that I've known you. And I hope you're so proud of yourself. This is phenomenal. So I mentioned how you started as an assistant in 2018. What mindset shift helped you evolve into a producing agent and now a partner?
Oh man, that was not easy. Actually, it's not an easy transition to go from technician to leader. Just like, the past comes with us. You want to call it baggage, and I wouldn't call it baggage in a negative sense, but the way I operated was that the agent I started working under, even though after he became my partner and I became technically an equal, I was still stuck in the mindset of he was the one who made the decisions. I would rely on him to sort of like make the final call in a lot of ways. Um, there was just a lot of things that I was sort of habits, I guess, that I had kept that I was stuck in. And so it was a tough transition. And one thing that's actually been really helpful, one of the reasons he brought me on as a partner, we also have a third partner as well. We brought on last year. Um, he's wanting to slow down and he's wanting to step back. He's, in his early 60s and wants to start thinking about retiring. And him physically just being away and me being the only, like being the one, I could call him, but it's a lot harder than when he's across the hall. So,
Mhm.
um, sort of like push the birdie out of the nest in some ways, right? Some of it was intentional. I know he made some intentional choices in our, dynamic, but it also was a matter of me taking the initiative. No, I'm not calling him. I'm going to make the call myself. So,
Mhm. That is an
yeah.
interesting shift because he almost you were like forced into relying on yourself, which you already knew how to do. But
Mhm.
isn't that is interesting? I've had the opposite happen where I went from working as a peer to working as a leader, and then that struggle was no, 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 I'm now your boss. You now actually have to listen to me because I'm no longer like we're no longer just friends goofing off at the workplace, now there's a different struggle where they didn't always want to listen to me. So I was like, you're a peer. And it was like, well, no, but now I'm your boss and you actually do have to listen to me and you actually have to get this done.
Well, and there honestly there was a little bit of that dynamic with not big, but there was a little bit of that dynamic on the team with us other um assistants that we had
Hmm.
that were assistants under my partner. Then I became a partner, and now I was also a boss. And
Mm,
that sort of happened. This was a background. It was kind of a smaller issue, I'd say, but it did happen as well. Um,
yeah.
and it's particularly difficult when you're working. I mean, I'm just going to say it when you're working with other women, and
Hmm.
particularly I found when you work with women that are older than you.
Oh, interesting. I've had that same. I've had it with men and women who are older than me, actually, where I am not someone who struggles with jealousy and that
Yeah,
turns into
me neither.
anger. I'm like really proud of you for growing. And
Mhm.
so to call it jealousy feels like it can't be jealousy, but it
Yeah.
is a bit of jealousy. Like,
Mhm.
why are you here? Why did you deserve this and I didn't?
It was tough. It was there
Yeah.
were some tough situations and that sort of thing, but out of all of it, I have learned about myself is that most of it is stories I'm telling myself in my own head. Stories that I
Hmm.
told myself and behaviors that I had learned over my time being an assistant, which was good. I did my
Hmm.
job, and clearly I did my job well because he then asked
Hmm.
me to become a partner, right? And um but I had to step out of that mindset. And was it I'm on my third year as a partner now. And I'm really just now feeling like I'm really settled into, I know what my role is. I feel comfortable in my role. I feel comfortable making calls. Um, I just fired a client the other day, and I didn't
Wow.
call my partner because I knew my partner trusted me, and I needed to trust in myself to make the right call for us as a team. And and when I say fired, it wasn't contentious. It was just, I don't think this is the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, for a lot of people and a lot of entrepreneurs, this is really tough. You're saying no to income, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless I bring the buck, because this was for a listing, a potential listing, and it was a big one. And I just said, you know what? I don't think this is the right fit. And I've gotten much more comfortable in my own skin about where our boundaries are. So,
I love that so much. It's I think it comes with confidence, right? I'm just consistently moving forward, and then one day all of a sudden the confidence presents itself, because I don't think we start that way. At least I don't know anyone who started their business growth just 100% confident in themselves. A lot of it started with insecurity, and then the confidence develops later. And then all of a sudden you look back, right, 3 years into being partner, you go, oh, I can be trusted. I do make good decisions, and I can fire this client. And I'm confident enough to fire this client because I'm not desperate for this deal.
yeah.
I'm curious, what did you do differently to earn a seat on the highest producing team in your MLS? What do you think you did differently?
Oof. We've actually been talking about this a lot on our team. And there's a lot of great agents in our area, hands down. There's a lot of agents we really love to work with and we highly, highly respect. I will say that, our team was started by my partner who has a very long standing, it's like 3 decades. He was born and raised in Montana, but he
Mm,
was a luxury home builder for 25 years before he became an agent. So he had this incredible reputation already when he switched over to real estate. And obviously a lot of that network it works very well together between, builder clients who build and then real estate, right? So um it was a sort of natural transition for him. And so, but he had built his career on transparency, honesty, doing what you say you're going to do, the golden
mm-hmm,
rule. I mean, the basics. We can beat this to death, but there is so much, we hear people talk about it, and a lot of it ends up being lip service. To
mm-hmm,
me, the difference is when you have like our team, that's what we do. That's who we are as people.
mm-hmm,
We are not going to sacrifice our integrity, our honesty, our morals, our ethics to get a deal done or to get something, like we have very strong boundaries as people before we're agents. And that's the
mm-hmm.
way that's how we find people and that's how we keep people on our team. And that's why, Mike is my partner. That's why him and I work so well together. I was raised very, very, um, very much that way, and that's the root of how I was raised, and same for him. That's how he's always operated. So when I started working with him, there was no training, right? To some extent, you can't train those things. You can
Mm-mm.
train
Can't train
salespeople.
values.
Yeah, you can't train that. And so it was a very fortunate, that we found each other and then we worked so well together, but it definitely very much has to do with the absolute basics. So that's one thing, and we've built a reputation. The other thing is there's things that we do on our team for our clients that a lot of other agents don't do. And some people are shocked by some of the things we do. We are at every single showing of our listings.
Mm,
It's shocking that some people find out that that is not the standard.
mm-hmm,
Um, yeah, we show we're there every time. That's why there's 3 partners and 9 of us on the team. Can't
mm-hmm,
do this alone. And we are a
mm-hmm,
very high touch team. And our clients aren't hearing from a VA in the Philippines. Don't get me wrong, VAs are a phenomenal,
mm-hmm,
an amazing asset to teams, but you have to be, if you want to survive in this high touch world, in the luxury
Mm-hmm.
world, you cannot lose that.
Mm-hmm. Because people want the you connection, right? They don't want to trust
Like,
somebody in the
yeah,
field. They don't want to trust your VA. They're trusting you with it. And it is so important, especially with this, with AI and VA becoming so, such a huge, I think it's a huge benefit for a lot of us because it's buying us some of our time back,
absolutely.
but you lose the connection to people in it as well. And I think if you get too lost in it, you'll lose the client base.
Yeah.
You're true masters of your craft, and I think that shines through. And this is something I speak on, is like, we shouldn't be half-assing our careers. I shouldn't be half-assing this job. And so like, I'm going to go all in and I'm going to do it well and I'm going to give it my best. Is there other great lenders? Of course there's other great lenders out there, but I know that I'm doing my best for my clients. I believe that I'm the best for them always. And I think that that's so important, to be a master of your craft. The way you just described it is you show up, there are non-negotiables in the business. And then also the mastering of the craft when it comes to the values. We don't sacrifice our values for a deal. We don't do it. And we take good care of people. We have the integrity. We do what we say we're going to do. I love that. So important. And I unfortunately think in this business, people think it's going to be easy money. And when you lack the values and you lack the work ethic, it's just, you're going to fall flat on your face eventually. What do you think separates good agents from elite performers at the high level you're operating today? I'm sure that probably goes hand in hand with your last answer.
Yeah, it absolutely goes hand in hand. I think the other, other things that we're always learning and we're always working to develop ourselves and get better. And I
Mhm.
think that that in itself is something that if you want to be elite, if you want to be elite and stay in that elite level, you're always moving. You're always learning, or no, I shouldn't say moving. You're always learning. You're always growing.
Mhm.
And you're willing to take feedback. You're willing to grow and say, you know what? I didn't handle that in the best way I could have. Yep.
Mhm.
Um, so humility, um, I see so often in this industry in particular is a lot of ego. And to be very clear, there's a big difference between being proud of what you do and being proud of what you provide to your clients and
Mhm.
what you do as an agent and having an ego. To me,
Mhm.
ego is insecurity coming out sideways.
Mhm.
And set the ego down. I mean, you can have some good agents and they may be really good at their social media, their marketing. It might look really beautiful. It gets people in the door. They have a really great lead generating website. But at the end of the day, at the output, at the end of the day, when the rubber literally meets the road, when you're negotiating on a deal, when you're dealing with a tough client, that's when it matters.
I could not agree more. Absolutely. What have you learned about leadership while managing and growing a team?
Let me put it this way. This is our first time being humans. And if we can
Mhm.
remind ourselves of that, we are all learning and none of us are going to be perfect, but I am in a very pivotal point in my life over the last few months. There's been a lot. Alexa knows some of my story, which I'm happy to share some in this area. But the end of 2025 was extremely pivotal to me, where I'd heard and I agreed and thought I understood that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't be the best leader. You can't be the best mom, sister, wife, whatever your roles in life are. And I was like, yeah, agree, absolutely. And I was still doing the stuff that was not serving me. It was not taking care of me. And
Mhm.
I had a very um emotional meltdown at one point around the holidays because I couldn't keep doing what I was doing. My schedule, I was doing everything for everything and everybody else but myself, and I kept telling myself the lie that that all mattered and I would take care of myself later.
Mhm.
And I finally had a very honest conversation with myself, not in a padded room, but I had a very honest conversation with myself, and I was like, you need to take responsibility. This is a choice. I was
Mhm.
choosing to be stressed. I was choosing my mornings. My mornings were my biggest problem. I was choosing my mornings. And that was a real sharp pill to swallow.
Mm.
And once I realized that and I finally just let go of these excuses and let go of the reasons why I couldn't take care of myself, I'm in what, probably 2 months in. My mornings are totally different. I'm not coming into the office till later than I was because I was telling myself this lie that if I wasn't there by 9, that I was gonna be late and my partner was gonna be mad at me. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm an entrepreneur. Why is why am I telling myself that someone else is telling me my hours? Like,
Hmm. Yeah, it's like the
why?
realization that you're being a bad boss to yourself. But
Yeah.
the realization, it's funny because Michelle and I were actually just talking about this, is that as entrepreneurs and as leaders, right, we will grind, and this is work ethic, and we will associate the lack of boundaries is necessary. Because if I don't have boundaries, someone's going to think I'm lazy. Someone's going to think I'm not working hard enough. I'm not working hard enough because you, similar to me, I believe you are a high performer. And so I want to perform at a high level, but then all of a sudden I'm hitting this wall and I'm burning out. And then this, like, the lack of giving ourselves permission for the breaks. Why? I can show up whenever I want. I know that I'm going to get the job done no matter what. I know that I am a performer. I know that when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. But I don't need to do it at 6 a.m. I don't need to do it at 10 p.m. I can do it at 11 a.m. I can do that. That's appropriate. I can spend mornings to myself, with my kids, right? I can create these boundaries, and that the realization of, like, I've just been a really bad boss, telling myself I don't get vacations, telling myself that I don't get my mornings, telling myself
Yep.
if you're not here at this time, you're a bad employee. Who
Yep.
told us this? It's such an
Yep.
interesting narrative, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen, and I know Erin because I've worked with Erin Bradley for over 3 years now.
Hmm.
And this is one of her major tenets. She talks about this all the time, right? This
Hmm.
is what she bases her whole message and her whole mission on, right? And again, I gave it, he was like, yeah, I agree. Uh-huh. Yeah. Kept telling myself a lie. And I will like the when once I changed my mornings and I gave myself, and not even permission, I don't want to say give myself permission because again, it's this whole like someone has to give me permission. No, I'm making the choice. This is what my
Hmm.
mornings are going to look like. And the moment I did that, I'm saying like the first day that I did that, my when I got into the office, my brain was clear. I could very clearly see a difference in my productivity.
Hmm.
I could easily prioritize. I could give direction to my team because we have two full-time assistants. I could give direction to them. I was
Hmm.
able to more clearly delegate the things that I knew I couldn't get to that weren't my
Yep.
job anyways,
Hmm.
delegate. And it's now 2 months in, and I'm like, I can't do this How did I ever not do this?
Yeah,
So,
isn't it interesting?
yeah.
Whenever I've got a weird morning, if my morning ever is like off in my routine, they're not production days. They are only maintenance days because I can't produce if I'm tired, right? If I'm sick mentally, if I'm just feeling very exhausted, or physically I'm sick, if I'm not healthy, those are not production days. Those
No.
are just maintaining days. This is just a day for maintenance. It's one of my rules of, if my morning's thrown off, I give myself permission to just
Yep.
maintain today.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm. It's wild how much that shifts, right? Is this, I must be performing, I must be producing, and if I'm not, I'm bad. If not, I'm not, I'm letting everybody down. But no, that is not a part of taking care of you. After my first burnout in the business is when I realized taking care of me was so important, and I was never taking care of me. And if I don't take care of me, I can't be a good mom, I
Yep.
can't be a good wife, and I can't be a good boss. Like, I can't run my business well. I'm a disservice to everybody around me.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
crazy though that we run on fumes like that for so long.
It's just it's an outdated, like I think Aaron says it, it's this outdated programming that it's an old story that we tell ourselves. And I think, a lot of what I've been diving into lately was talking about millennials and this, they call us the Oregon Trail generation. We were raised by boomers. But if you look at it, the reality, the main thread in how we were raised and how our parents were raised, therefore what was passed on to us, is very much this: you grind until you literally are like in the emergency room and
Dead.
cannot work. You're dead.
Yes. Yep.
Like there's
Correct.
no excuse. And I watched my parents do it. And so it's a story I told myself. I watched my parents not take care of themselves.
Hmm.
And I watched all the people of my, my friends' parents. I watched, these older generations, they don't take care of themselves. And then, they're, I could go on this for a million years, but it's one of those where we're relearning how to
Hmm.
live our life. We're relearning a new narrative to
Hmm.
tell ourselves. And I don't need to be in the office at from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day in order to have a
Hmm.
successful business.
Correct.
Sleepy BS lie that we've told each other and ourselves.
Yes, exactly. I've got a keynote. I've got a women's event that I'm speaking at next month, and it's about are you a hustler or are you a hostage? I love being a hustler. I love that I have that hustle in me. But what I didn't like is that I was becoming a hostage of my own doing, right? I became a hostage to my own business. I'd created this prison. These were the expectations, and if you weren't working hard, you were failing, you were a failure, you were being lazy. All these narratives that I had created, that I was a hostage in my own life, in my own business, and
Yeah,
then I was useless. And so it's really an interesting balance, because obviously there's this the hustle culture is very negative right now, but I don't think it's hustle culture that's negative. It's hostage mentality that's negative. It's the burnout that it leads to. It's the working from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day or you're a failure. It's the it's the being so busy that you have no you time and that you don't even show up for the family. That's hostage. That's not hustle mentality. Hustle mentality is like is it's not the same. There's nothing wrong with being a hustler, but there is something wrong with being a hostage in the
100%.
prison you've created.
Yep, I agree
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And so many of us deal with it too. One of my questions for you is going to be, what do you think is not talked about enough that needs to be? And I think for me, it's like loneliness and burnout, and like the fear that comes with burnout. The fear that comes with burnout when you've recovered from burnout and you don't want to hit it again, right? But the loneliness piece of it, I have found so interesting this week, because so many of us feel lonely, but
Mhm.
so many of us feel this way.
Yep.
So we must not be lonely. We must just not be reaching out, you know?
Yeah. Um, I just listened to yesterday, the last 2 days, I listened to this phenomenal podcast with Chris Williamson and Simon Sinek.
Oh,
I am a
love
huge
Simon.
fan of both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I while I'm on the treadmill, I listen to podcasts, and Simon Sinek's life's work has been talking about leadership, and one of his new he's actually writing a new book on friendship, because he said, us as millennials, we do not have the circle of friends that previous generations did. I mean, our world is
Mm-hmm.
just different. And even Gen X and, younger generations, they do not have the friends, the village around them that we used to.
Mm-hmm.
And, you
We let
know,
it go for growth. We let it grow. We do. It's actually white men are notorious. White men, as they get older, are notorious for suicide because they don't have friends. And they hit this point where it's like they kind of sacrifice all their friends for the job or for the family or both,
yep,
and they are the most susceptible to suicide. And
yep,
it's interesting, like other cultures used to not struggle with it as much. I haven't looked up the statistics lately, but they used to not struggle with it as much because they held those friendships and those family relationships so close to their heart. Like they were just truly cherished. And we are kind of we kind of are living in a society where friendships are just not important. The grind is important. Again, that hostage mentality is like, go, 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 let everything else go. Who cares if you lose the friendships? One thing that I do is I do book club, which is really just we watch trash TV or we watch true crime TVs, and then we talk about it once a week with one of my very good friends. And we do this because we live in different states now. So once a week we book out an hour and a half, and we like, oh my gosh, who do you think did it? Who do you think killed her? And then we're
yeah,
like, okay, we're watching 3 more episodes. And my daughter teases me, it's not book club, it's TV club. But to me, it's book club. And we have so much fun with it. But my point is the cherishing the friendships, like how fulfilling that is for me to be able to connect with her once a week, because it used to be like once a year.
yeah,
And that's normal for a lot of us. We lose
yeah.
our friendships, we dive into the business, we dive into the family, and then that's it for us. Sad.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've been spending a lot of time thinking on is this whole, this whole concept about how we're we're driven to work, we work so hard. We and then we start to lose connection with friends, especially as an entrepreneur. I think in general we're lonely, our whole world, but I think because I'm an entrepreneur and my husband is an entrepreneur, we talk about it all the time. We're like,
Mhm.
we don't have any friends that we can really talk to that really relate with our life.
This is
Um,
huge, huge, because you start growing out of friendships and you start growing out of rooms, right? You really do outgrow them. And then I don't have anybody to relate to, which triggers the loneliness. As an entrepreneur, as a high performer, as a leader, you
as
don't,
a mom, as a
yeah,
mom,
yeah,
because I mean, my daughter's 4.5, and there are times where, let's say it's a play date or I'm at a birthday party, like if I ever have to, I hate going to kids' birthday parties.
I do
And the
too.
reason is
I
one,
hate
it's
it.
so
I hate
awkward and
it.
it's surface level. I'm not a surface level person, but it's
Small
like
talk. I do not like
99% of,
small talk. I
yeah,
want to connect with you on a deeper level. Are we going to be best friends right now?
yeah. It just, but it can be really hard because, there's a lot of, and I have close friends that are stay-at-home moms, and I envy that they can do that. I know I was not built that way, and this is
Same.
the life I was meant to live. I
Correct.
have a so much, like, unending amounts of respect for stay-at-home moms.
I think it's harder than being a working mom. I truly do think
100%.
being a stay-at-home mom, I think that you lose your identity. And not everybody, but I've seen this in friends and
Mhm.
family members where like they lose themselves in being a
Yep.
stay-at-home mom. And I think it is so much harder. I think it is so respectable. It is so
Yeah.
beautiful. I was not built for it. And that's okay. I love
Mhm.
it. I wish I was sometimes, but I was not what I was built for.
Yeah. And so it is tough when they're like, "How's work?" And I'm like,
Hmm.
I'll even stop myself because I'm like, well, I had this really tough client and, but also not really negative stuff, but like, I just made a huge sale. We got this huge property in our contract. It's going really well. And doesn't feel great. It doesn't always feel awesome to be talking about that because you feel like yeah. So it just, you start to edit yourself,
Yeah.
not because I want to dim my light because my friend would want that. It's just I don't want to feel like I don't want to brag. I don't want to feel like I'm undermining the value of what they're doing
Yeah.
as a stay-at-home mom or even, just a W-2 job, right?
I say this often about people when I don't share values with them. You touched on values early on and why your business is so strong. I do not think that people that don't share my values are bad. We are just different, and I don't want to be in the same room as you. And it's not because I think you are bad. It's because we're probably never going to get along because we just don't share values.
Yep.
And because of that, like when I'm surrounding myself with people who share values or share similar experiences in life, or maybe we're in a similar place in life, it's only going to produce more growth. And I believe that proximity to the right people matters just as much as proximity to the wrong people matters.
Yep.
If I'm surrounding myself with the wrong people who don't share values, or people who want to perform at a different level than I do, that is not my jam, right? Like it's going to take me down, and maybe not even take me down a notch. It's just going to shift the trajectory of my life.
Right.
This is the trajectory I want to be on, though.
Yep.
I like being a high performer. I like making money. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a good person, making money and having fun. Like there's a lot of joy in that. And also then when it comes to we share different values, I it has been so meaningful to me to surround myself with strong women and good women who share values, who really love each other a lot and just want to
Yep.
see each other win, is the most powerful thing I've ever done. Most powerful thing I've ever done for myself in my life.
Yep.
How has being the primary income provider played a role or impacted your marriage?
Man, my husband and we've talked a lot about this one. We're our daughter's 4.5. And when my daughter was 6 months old, my husband was working for a company. He's an engineer. And he was miserable. I
Mm.
saw it. He knew it. We knew it. He had been wanting to create his own destiny for a long time. Um, and we decided together that he was going to leave his job. I was getting back into work and I had been making good money and we had a good savings and we had a foundation and a base financially where we felt comfortable that he could do that. And I knew that I was going to continue to go back. I was going to go back to work. That was something that I knew I was going to do. I knew before I had my daughter and I thought, well, maybe it'll change after, and it didn't. And, but when I started going back part-time, when he left his job for about 6 months, he had an office in our guest room, and his workshop for the business he was starting was in our garage. I called it, we were Steve Jobsing it. He he was home, and so when I would go to work, either my mom or my husband would watch our daughter. And we were just in this sort of it just kind of naturally happened, but we didn't realize the impact of me being the primary provider, not only the dynamic, but just it wasn't until later. I think down the line we realized the impact. I mean, we were seeing it, but I don't think we were in it, so it's hard to see what it was, right? Like where this, the tension was coming from, right? And it was hard. It was there was a sense of flipped roles that we see traditionally, which I think can be successful. I think in hindsight, neither of us realized the impact that would have in our dynamic, in our relationship. We both grew up in very, I think the right word's nuclear homes, where mom and dad, my parents owned a business. My dad worked 7 days a week, 7 days a week, part of my life. And my mom did the books for the business, but on the whole, she was home. His dad worked, traveled the world, was gone all the time. And his mom raised 4 kids basically by herself, and she stayed at home. So he was raised with very clear traditional, when both were, lines of roles in a marriage, husband and wife. And so this for both of us flipped it on its head.
Yeah.
And we've worked through it. My husband's business is, we've bought him a commercial space. He has employees now. It's going very, very well. It took a while. It took a while to get there. It takes a lot of communication and a lot of humility and a lot of grace. Because men, in their true masculine, if you look at what the real definition of masculine, it's not giant muscles, He-Man BS. It's
Stability.
providing stability, providing a safe place for their family. So it's safety, stability, reliability, leadership. He felt, and we've talked about this openly. I mean, he felt like, I think some of that was, he wasn't feeling that as much for a while. And that was tough. That was really, really tough. But on the flip side, he also has said, I got time with my daughter that my dad never got with me. Right?
Beautiful.
I would not, I'm going to tear up. He's like, I wouldn't trade that time with my daughter for anything. It was, some days it sucked, right? Some days it was hard, but man, the bond that those two have is amazing. And we are so, for the position we're in now, we are so grateful. And I think it was a really beautiful test of, call it beautiful test of our relationship. And it gave us both a lot of different perspective on how things can be, and that's okay. That if we don't do things in the traditional sense, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it takes a ton of communication and a ton of humility and a ton of grace.
For my husband and I, it was like his ego was really impacted. I didn't grow up in a traditional home. I was raised by a single mom. And but he was raised in more of a traditional home, and it was a lot of ego. Like I'm supposed to be the provider and I'm not. And it was really like a lot of love and grace and communication and a lot of just working through that, because
Mm.
it didn't come from a lack of support for me. It wasn't, it was like, I love seeing you win, and I am starting to feel inadequate because I'm not providing. And it was so hard to work through that because I didn't understand it. So then again, the humility for me of like, I need to humble myself to get to a place where I understand this.
Yeah.
He needed to humble himself and like, this is okay. Like you said, like giving ourselves permission for this is okay, and there's nothing wrong with it, and you are not inadequate because you are not the primary income provider. There's nothing wrong with that. We did the same thing where he was went out on his own, started a business, tried to build it, and the length of time it took to build it and to become what it is today, it was like a weird journey and a hard one and a beautiful one, but really tough too.
It's so funny. If you would have asked me when I was 25, if this, if my life would have looked the way it did, never. I mean, life never turns out how you think it will, right?
Hmm.
And again, it's our first time being human. If anybody you work with, or that your marriage or friendship, any relationship you have, family, you have to believe and tell yourself that the other person on the other end of this conversation or discussion or argument even is just doing their best.
Hmm.
They
It's their
really
first
are.
time too.
There's so few of us that actually intend to harm, right? Like,
Hmm.
even sometimes when we've said or
Hmm.
done mean things or cruel things to others, it's not coming from a place of like, I want to hurt you. It's I'm hurting and therefore, right? All these things. But if you
Yeah,
just give
beautiful
each other
put.
the grace and look at someone as an ally, not an adversary, and remind yourself of that, um, yeah,
So
yeah,
beautifully put, and such a good reminder. It's really easy to give like kids grace. It's really hard to forget that it is just a bunch of adults first time too. Like I like to say that we're just a bunch of idiots figuring life out. And so A, don't take yourself so seriously, and B, don't take
yeah,
them so seriously. Like it's like life just make it a little easier on yourself, like let it go. It's
yeah,
really, it's such a good reminder, Valerie. I love that
yeah,
so much. First time I met you, you were really open about what you were dealing with your postpartum and just how heavy that was on you.
mhm,
And you're so vulnerable with it. And I cannot tell you how much I admire that, because again, I think that's something that's not talked about enough, is how severe that is for women.
yeah, yeah.
And my question for you is like, what helped you find your way back to yourself? Because I know that's obviously different for everybody, but what would you say it was for you?
There's a lot of things, but I would say you have to talk about it.
Hmm.
That is not a journey. You cannot do that journey alone.
Hmm.
Period.
Hmm.
And my husband was not going to be the only person I could rely on too. You have to understand that there's a limit to what our spouses can do, and my husband was an amazing piece of my support system.
Hmm.
That it never would have been fair of me to rely on him only, right? And
Yeah.
so many times when we're going through something like postpartum or severe depression or anxiety, it's very it almost feels embarrassing.
Not shame in society, internal shame, like the narrative you create that you shouldn't be feeling like this, like the guilt and the shame that goes along with it is
Yeah,
oh, it makes it even worse.
absolutely. And you have to find a in my case, my support system consisted of my family and my husband, of course, and my best friends, my closest friends. That my best friend, we've been friends since we were 15, 25 years now. She was in that. But I have a therapist. I had a
Hmm.
psychiatrist. Because mine was severe enough, I needed medication, and
Hmm.
I felt very strongly that I wanted to go someone whose role in the medical field was specifically to talk to people about mental health, and I was a doctor and medication for, right?
Hmm.
It was just important to me, that felt
Hmm.
talking about not necessarily what I was going through, but I would say another huge piece of my journey back to myself was was meeting Aaron, was getting connected with Aaron,
Mm,
was getting connected with this group of women. And,
mhm.
like this year at the retreat that I went to of Aaron's, I was the youngest person. And I definitely have the youngest child. I'm trying to have another one. So I'm in a different space in life than a lot of the other women there, but it was still a place where I didn't feel alone. Because at one point in their
Mhm.
life, they were there to some extent or not, right? With young children,
Correct.
pregnancy, all the like the young family, all the things. Working with Aaron has been an integral part for me personally. Um, you can't do it alone. You cannot.
It's not about connecting with people who are the same age. It's about connecting with people who are the same, like same periods of life. Either you've been through it or you're going through it, because that's where we tend to create the deepest bonds, you
Mm.
know. And last year, right, I would say you and I and one other gal were probably the youngest in that room. I didn't I didn't feel like I was the youngest. We shared a lot of life experiences. We were in very similar places in life, and that age thing really messed with me for a long time. I had a lot of insecurities that I was like not supposed to be. I didn't like telling people how old I was because I felt like, oh, they're going to think I'm too young. They're going to think I'm too young to be in this room. I'm too young to do this. No, 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 no. My resume proves that I can be in this room. My resume, my life experience has proven that I can relate in these scenarios, and that it really has not been about age. Some of my closest friends are 10 to 15 years older than me because we just happen to be in similar places in life.
Yeah, I would just say a community. That's this. You've got to have a community to talk to people and to not be afraid to say something. You
Mhm.
you have to talk to someone, and as much shame as you might hold, because I would not wish that hell on my worst enemy.
I think releasing it too, like the verbal release of it is so freeing that once it's
Yep.
out, you're like, oh, that actually wasn't so bad. Why did I feel embarrassed? Why did I feel shame? It's like the holding it in that is it compounds on itself. Whereas once you get it out, it's like you're free of it. You truly just become more free of it. It's really interesting.
And we tend to tell ourselves a story that if we talk about it, we'll get either, in some extent, we'll tell ourselves will get judged. But I think in my
Hmm.
case, it was less that. It was more, I was more worried about what I was going through in my own head was going to hurt or worry or impact my loved ones. I was
Hmm.
worried about them worrying about me.
Isn't that interesting? Like you didn't want to be a burden to them. I don't want you to
Yep.
worry about me.
I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to impact their life.
Such a woman thing to do is,
Yeah.
I don't want you to worry about me. I want you to be free of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. What inspired you to start a podcast focused on women, entrepreneurship, motherhood, and just having real conversations? I mean, obviously, I know you're still in the early stages of this, but as this is developing, like what really inspired you to do this? This is really amazing.
Going through what I went through and, this path I've walked, in the last 3 years has been really rough at times. It's been wonderful and beautiful at times. And I'm at the point in my life where I am very thankful for that happening. I
Mm.
was not for a very long time. I was mad. I was very upset. Why did I have to go through this? Right. And I
Mhm.
mean, I went through a whole thing, should I even have another child? Is this irresponsible of me to do this? I mean, this whole thing I went through, right? And for I'd say the last year and a half, as I really started to feel better and come back to myself and, all that, um I started to feel this pull. Like I want to be able to talk to other people about it. And my
Mhm.
psychiatrist, I was on a call with her, a Zoom with her, probably a year and a half ago or so, and she's like, I was telling her how isolating it feels,
Mhm.
and she said, I wish, because of course HIPAA, she can't
Mhm.
legally, but she goes, I wish I could put you in a room with my other clients. I can't tell you how many other clients I have who are high performing mothers
Mhm.
who are here in this town who are in the
Mhm.
same exact boat you are
Mhm.
who
And we
who are
feel so alone in it. We feel so alone in it. We are
and
absolutely not alone.
yeah, and it just kept ruminating for me, and there's so many other things I think I needed, the sort of like when the timing is right, it will come to you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I felt this like gentle tug to do something about it, to say to have a way to talk about what I went through and help other women not feel so alone. And at at the beginning of this interview, I talked about how when I changed my morning schedule, when I started choosing myself, what I did is I started going to the gym in the mornings, which sounds silly, like duh, like that's pretty common for people to do, but for me, it was a big deal. Making
Mm-hmm.
that change in my schedule was a big deal for me. And the first morning I was on the treadmill at the gym, I'd been on a tread. I used to work at a gym. Like this is not my first time on a treadmill, but this in this stage of my life, like this getting on the treadmill this first day was I'm on the treadmill listening to music, and all of a sudden my brain just starts flowing, and I start thinking about this postpartum
Mm.
journey and all these ideas and topics, and all of a sudden I am just filling out this notes app. I'm just filling out this note,
Wow.
just this list, a brain dump of all the topics around and what I didn't know what form it would take at that time, but it just started coming because I had a moment to myself that I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't doing something for somebody else. And I had
Mm-hmm.
a moment to think. And so it just started coming. And then the next week, I went to Arizona
Oh,
to the retreat.
wow.
And it had been sitting on my mind, right? But I was looking forward to going because I know it was a great time for me to set aside time just for myself. And I was very intentional about setting aside time to think more about this and spend more time on it while I was there. And um, I it was our last night there, and it just hit me. I was like, is it a social media account? Is it a podcast? Something. I have to do
Mm-hmm.
something. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a gentle tug anymore. It was like I I have to get this out. And I started like it, and then I started formulating these like the topics and the ideas for the name of the pod. I mean, it just started flowing and just like bleh, came out of me. And I at the last night, it was like, what are your takeaways that you're taking from this? What are your asks at the end? You do this at the last night. And I stood up there and I was like, I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm going to do something that's focused on postpartum and women and high
Mm,
performing women, entrepreneurs. I'm going to do something.
I love it.
And I spoke with Aaron Moore, and it's developed into, I think podcast is the best venue to do that, the best medium. Um, but it was I was ready. My brain, my
Mm-hmm.
mind, my soul was ready.
Mm-hmm.
The last few years, I just wasn't ready yet. I wasn't
Yeah.
at the place where I was in a spot to even think clearly enough and have enough time to myself to even consider that stuff.
Yeah. And it is
So,
interesting, right? How that develops. And in hindsight, you're like, oh, duh, this is always what it's been. I kind of knew it then, but I didn't know it then because I wasn't ready.
yeah.
It's so cool. I was just talking to a friend about that earlier today. She was saying, I just feel like I know something's calling to me and I'm not quite sure what it is. I was like, you're just not ready to hear it yet. It's in front of
Yep.
you. It's right in front of you, but you're not
Yep.
ready to hear it or see it. Valerie, if people want to continue this conversation or connect with you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Well, two different ways. I mean, my email is Valerie, Valerie at S as in Sam, U as in unicorn, platinum. That's the name of it's one of the name of our real estate team. That's my main email. You can also find me on Instagram. So I'm at V Johnson RE is my handle. You're welcome to follow me there and DM me there as well. Probably that's the easiest, I think, is through social medias to find me there and follow. I don't do a whole lot of personal stuff yet. A lot of it's real estate based. I do have some family stuff mixed in there, but um, as the podcast idea evolves, there will certainly be a related social media account with it. But
Oh, I'm so excited to see how this grows and I just can't wait. Women need this and you're such a blessing.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much for being here today and thank you for taking
Thank
the
you.
time.
Yeah,
I appreciate you for joining us.
it was great to see you, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very, very flattered.
Thank you so much for joining us today on The Ripple Effect. I look forward to seeing you next time.